Perfect. I'll have the headphones on my head, so no worries. If there's anything, just let me know. And I know that Dave starts with the presentation, then I think that Eric will continue, I suppose. So I'll jump in to just to switch that. But in any case, have a great kickoff and let's get this started.
Sharing their thoughts, forging a way forward with the goal of all of us trying to drive the adoption of ISCP and letting the world know about that. With that said, I think it's I'll just kind of introduce a couple new members. We've got Alex Renz just decided to join our group last night. So thank you, Alex, for the support. It's much appreciated.
Hi, everybody.
Yeah, and we've got Be Kind, who is really been posting some really thoughtful comments in the Smart Channel, in the Smart Contracts channel, which I guess Philo saw his writings and said, wow, this guy actually is got some really good comments. And so we both invited him to join, and he's going to be joining us. I think Tuesday mornings are difficult for him to do it. He's actually a physician, so I think he's working right now, but he will be contributing when he can. Okay, so please, this is not the Greg Martin dialogue show, so monologue show. So please contribute. Stop me, interrupt at any time. Add value. Okay, so
just to interrupt.
Yeah.
I actually made it for this one. This is Brian. So
hey, Brian.
So nice to meet everybody. I'm in Asheville, North Carolina, and
oh, wonderful place. I love it.
Thanks for the invite. Yeah. So,
oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've actually done quite a bit of business in Asheville, so with the university there. So love it there. Pretty place. Very pretty place.
Yeah.
So these are my thoughts, you guys. First off, you can kind of take a look at what was pinned in the Smart Contracts channel under the X Teams to kind of give what I think was a decent vision. And I'll just kind of, while everybody's maybe not looking at it right now, the initial intent was to have a collaborative effort to help people within the IOTA community by introducing workflows around ISCP with content and open source contributions. There's a whole lot more there with that it kind of talks about providing documentation, code samples, improvement to modules, libraries, and defining an FAQ. I think all of those are nice tasks, and I think they're things that we should march towards. The rest of the team, I for all the rest of the community and everybody in this team, feel free to make comments and redirect the conversation if you think we should focus on some other strategies. Right now, also, I'll give you a little bit about my background. I've been a startup guy. I've had a couple successful exits. So I have a little bit of a foundation on what I have seen to be successful in trying to orient groups towards marching to, a goal. And I think the goal really right now is to identify what's existing in the Ethereum world and the other smart contracts out there. Identify what are the key applications and the key dApps that make writing and supporting smart contracts in those environments. Identify those and make sure that we actually have an equivalent ready and waiting for the ISCP community and for the development team to assist our development team in helping them identify stuff that we need to build. So I think, I've heard a lot. I did a lot of interviewing within the community that have been working with other chains. And the number one comment that I heard was we need to do a better job of tools and dApps to make writing smart contracts very easy, more intuitive, because there are already existing tools out there that do that. What do people think about that? Does that make sense? Just that statement, that idea?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Don't all chime in at once. Okay. So
there's a lot of people on mute though.
Yeah. All right. Because I don't want this to be the world according to Greg, though I can make it that way if you want to. So the idea here is that really let's identify. I mean, my goal here is, if you guys agree with the strategy, is for us to go figure out what those are, identify what's being built, what's coming forward from the ISCP development team, figure out the gaps, and then divide and conquer. Try to find maybe people in the community that could actually develop or help develop those apps. Maybe in the future we can actually sponsor contests to do things around this, but really to drive the tools to be ready to support the new network, and also when the ISCP is actually brought out. Okay, so that means the next version, the next beta release, and the final version. So once we know we actually have the tools ready for the outside world to adopt. Okay, so that's kind of where I think we should be going, along with all the other things that have been stated. So I kind of think that should be our mission number one, and really maybe not one, but number two is just to make sure that we identify what help the IF team, the ISCP IF team needs to help from our group to help them further their program. So that'll be testing. What type of feedback do they need? It's really important to have the community members have open dialogue with Eric and Evaldis and others, so that we can really understand what they need to test this properly. I've heard a few people mention that they've been developing some of this in a vacuum. So we need to make sure that we help them discover any gaps, give them the feedback required to fill any gaps or holes. So that's kind of another key part that I think that we really need to concentrate and focus on, is this group. Everybody agree with that strategy?
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay. And any comments on that, let me know.
Well, I can add a little to that.
Yeah, please do.
Because you're hitting one of our, well, let's call it weak spots. I actually asked our team leader Dave to look for an actual test engineer, because we are all very hard at work building our own respective parts of the system, but having sufficient test coverage of everything is definitely one of the things that we need, especially with a smart contract system. You need to be completely foolproof, right? So yeah, at the testing department, I'd say there could be a lot of fun had by people who just want to do some programming and want to figure out how it works. In my own department of the WASM VM, the Go and Rust programming side, I am currently in the process of setting up a way simpler and better testing system to use, and convert all our tests to that new system. And once that's done, and that should probably be by the end of this week at latest, I would love it if people would pick it up and just start getting familiar with that shit by adding tests. They will on the fly learn how to program the WASM VM system and to test the system, and I can always point them in a direction where our coverage is lacking, and where we would be happy to have additional tests, or they could come up with their own ideas that they are thinking, oh, this is something IT is missing. But yeah, that's definitely something. The whole testing department is where we're lacking. The second thing where we're lacking is still, even with our current efforts, is the documentation area. So we right now I'm building this wonderful tool that simplifies programming smart contracts on the WASM and Go side. But it's well, I'd say poorly documented. It's a nice effort to get familiar with it, but definitely doesn't cover all the nooks and crannies. So that's something where we definitely could use some help in that regard, because of course we're the ones documenting it, which means that we cannot focus on moving the whole project forward while we are documenting. It is a move forward, of course, and it's an essential part of the release. So it's not a problem in that regard, but it does hold the progress development. Yeah. So anything that in the testing department and the documentation department can be offloaded to other people is so welcome to us.
Okay, great input, because this has kind of been my experience in the past when trying to put stuff like this together. And I think right off, I like to be quite practical. Let's ask a couple questions of the team. Do we have anybody who has experience on our team with testing? Do we have any native testers in our group with any experience? That would just be good to know if we have anybody who has that experience. Maybe you don't feel comfortable with smart contracts, but still, I'd like to know the inventory of what we have out there as far as skill set.
What kind of
I'm sorry, Sam. Yeah, go ahead.
What kind of testing are we looking at? Unit testing, end-to-end? I'm not too familiar with smart contracts, but I am pretty good in programming in general.
Well, that's exactly what we need. I want to make clear, I'm talking about my own department right now, the WASM VM, the Go and Rust environment, right? We have the EVM, but that's not being pulled by me, that's somebody else. That's Diego that's doing that, and that development is still under development very much. So it will be hard to talk about dApps and such with respect to the current Ethereum ecosystem and such without the EVM working already, and that
Right.
may take a little while still. There are some gaps there that we're trying to cover. And then there's of course the entire underlying ISCP system, the whole thing with with the committees, the consensus, posting to the Tangle, etc. And though I know quite a lot about that because I worked closely with Ivaldas in setting that up, it's still a lesser point for me because, well, I'm swamped with the WASM VM as it is. But in the WASM VM, I try to make it so that you only need limited programming experience to be able to write smart contracts. There is literally no weird usage of language features or anything. It is the most straightforward programming that you can find. So anybody who can program, even if it's a different language, if you are familiar with a C-style language, you should be able to just jump into the Go programming anyway, and even in the Rust programming, because I avoided all the stupid stuff of Rust that takes a lot of effort to learn. But don't get me wrong, Rust is an amazing tool. If you are an actual Rust developer, holy crap, that makes you somebody who will churn out code that is really dependable. So, but the subset of Rust that I use in the smart contract programming is the same as the subset of Go, and even the same as the subset in the Java proof of concept that I made a while ago. And it's literally just simple programming with structures and if, then, else, and while, and for, and that kind of shit. So anybody who knows a bit about programming should be off and running with that pretty fast. And since I'm trying to use the same system in the testing environment, so you're literally using the same entities that you're using in the smart contract, which runs in a different environment normally, but you're running those same entities in your testing environment. So that translation should be fairly simple, and then it becomes a matter of learning some of the idiosyncrasies of the Go testing environment, of the solo environment, and of course how the smart contracts themselves are set up with chains and such, although I did try to hide all those aspects so that you can fully concentrate on only your smart contract. So yeah, anybody who has programming experience should be able to jump in very quickly. And yeah, writing tests essentially is, there's so much copy pasting when you are writing tests. And then every now and then you refactor out the obvious big blocks that are constantly being copied into functions. But otherwise, yeah, you want to test all the edge cases, right? And it's not rocket science. So yeah, we can have some people of let's say medium experience there easily help out.
Okay,
So-
that's a great overview, Dave. Would you mind, like when somebody says that they have some, like says they could maybe help out, can we just get a list of those, or people send me an email?
Yeah, I was actually
DM me.
thinking that
Yeah.
we should have them post in either the X Teams channel if you're interested, or if you're not X Teams channel, post in the Smart Contracts regular, and we'll look at those and make sure we get those names together and kind of help coordinate getting that group going for everybody. And
So,
I want to say one other thing
yeah,
too, which is that this community is all about helping. So we need to all kind of, whatever way you can, help pitch in. And even if it's just, hey, I have a question or whatever, and answering a question out there, helping someone to get, with their problem, those are all essential. And, I've seen that over and over in all those successful groups here on the IOTA Discord. It's just a matter of being involved. So make sure to do that, okay?
Yeah, I appreciate that comment. Part of the idea that I came up with about us finding other, where I kind of said that we should be looking for other tools on other platforms, on other chains, to make sure that we have the same equivalent tools, and obviously improve upon them. But the whole idea there is to make sure that we make working with ISCP, make it very approachable, right? A lot, kind of like when people come from, maybe want to kick the tires or look what we're doing that work on other chains, we want to make sure that, oh, there's a lot of familiarization with this, right? Oh, that's a lot like what happens on what I use in Ethereum, right? So I can run with this. And then obviously, once they dive into what we can do with ISCP and all the advantages, cost savings, etc., it's a great deal. The idea is that they'll just, the light bulbs will come on and they'll start maybe developing on our platform. But also being approachable is also what we need to do in this group, right? So the person who spoke up about helping testing today, if you don't feel like you have the skill sets, we need to make testing and working with all this stuff approachable, right? So whatever, don't be, and also if you don't have the answers, or if you start and you just hit a wall, or if it just isn't for you after you try it, that's not a problem. What we want to do is we want to get more people involved in kicking the tires, utilizing what's already built, figuring out the deltas, and actually then that's the guidance that we provide to IF, and also the gaps that we maybe try to fill with our X team, and then the greater community at large. So just dive in. If you find you can't make it work, or it's just beyond you, that's fine. But this is the way that we're going to find documentation errors, things where Eric thought he made it, and the rest of the team made something intuitive and simple, but there was a gap there that, because he works with it all the time, that he didn't see. But if he doesn't know about it, he can't fix it. So this is the kind of stuff where we can really help him. Like, for example, I intentionally, I could actually look at my agenda and see that I've made the first two stanzas there identical. That would have been kind of smart to figure out ahead of time. But yeah, so I've got, what do we have here? Review pinned comments and X team contracts listed. That thing is listed twice, so I must have lost a paragraph. Okay, no chuckles, no nothing. All right. Okay, so the Greg Martin dialogue continues, or monologue. I want to talk about cadence. Cadence, when you start a group like this, is really important. And that's so we need to identify who are the guys who are always, or people that are on this team that will show up on a regular basis, and also will help us move the ball forward and keep the momentum going. So it is my opinion that we need to. Well, whoever that is, that's mute, please. That was impressive.
There we go.
There you go. Okay. So I was speaking to the cadence, and really cadence is important. So and what I mean is how frequently we have these meetings, and also in every meeting we try to say, hey, what did we want to accomplish in our last meeting, and have we done anything in that regard? Have we moved the ball? Have people perhaps that talked about testing, did they actually do something? Have they reached out to Eric yet? All those things. And it's always an interesting discussion or effort you have when you work with a volunteer community, right? So it's all, everybody works on their own time. And, you know, you guys don't report to me. I'm not your boss, but we still need to, we still need to accomplish things. So what I try to instill in the groups are that we focus on the team, figure out who the go-to members are that we identify as people that can actually follow up on what they say they're going to do, make sure that the cadence is there, that we support those individuals, and so that we actually have our delivery on, and we actually need to deliver, right? Whether or not you guys realize it, if you're part of this team, we have deliverables, and we'll define those deliverables together. Whether that's, hey, finish testing by this much on the WASM, or crank out some documentation in working with Eric or the rest of the team as we identify it, or pick team members who will take it on that already have been working with other chains to say, hey, look, I'll go identify some of those Ethereum killer dApps that make life easy to develop with and smart contracts on the Ethereum chain or others, right? And then the next meeting, bring those forward, right? So that we can actually talk about them, see what IF has as far as plans going forward in that direction, and then actually see what we need to do as a group to identify, to basically fill those gaps, right? How to get
interesting question from my side. How many people do we have in the group who have experience with other smart contract platforms?
It's yeah, so that is a great question. And, you know, one of the things for me is building an inventory of assets, and every one of our team members is an asset. So what I'll be doing is, when I determine everybody that came to this meeting, you're going to get a DM from me, and I'm just going to say, hey, what areas do you feel comfortable with? What are your, you know, what basically, what are the things that you kind of specialize in, so that we can kind of build an inventory of people, or understand who does what well, or you know, what areas they play in. Once we have that, then that'll help us map to trying to match people with the proper tasks that we want to go with going forward. And it also means, and you'll see the last bullet here, number 5, is it's important for us to, after we identify those gaps about what assets don't we have within our community, within this X team, let's go find them, right? So I kind of always make it a mission for everybody and in one of these groups is to, not only are you evangelists, but right, the next time you come up to a meeting, maybe you can invite one friend that you know that's got the chops and the skills, or might want to be involved. Bring them along. Let them bring them into the fold, right? We need people that added to this group that can help us address the gaps that we identify. And I know that in the beginning, some of the things I've already stated, we may not have the skill set within our team to meet them. So let's figure it out, work on it. And by the way, I don't want to belittle anybody. Because you showed up here, that's a skill to me, right? There's something that you can do to help the group. You can help me, you can help others. Keep tabs of where the gaps are. We're going to have programs that we're going to develop, so that we'll need people that can just have great managerial skills and project management skills. You know, we want to run this kind of as a small company, and I don't want to make these sound like the obligations like huge, humongous, right? All of us have to do this on our own time, you know, when they're available. But we still want to do this kind of in a business-like fashion, because if we don't set goals, if we don't identify what we need to build, if we don't, you know, all of that stuff, nothing ever gets done. One of my pet peeves with dealing with the IF over the last, since 2017, is they do a really good job of building a platform. But then they just go, hey, community, go build something on it. And what I find is that gets us nowhere. we need to focus people's minds, right? So there's a whole world of stuff to build. And so when you have a whole world of stuff to build, nothing ever gets built. I've done this in every company that I've ever worked with, right? It's just a problem. So my idea here with this group is to identify the dApps that need to be built, identify the skills that are needed for us to address those needs, identify the team members that can help us address those needs, and say, okay, look, let's just focus on these things that we can build or deliver on, right? Not choose the whole universe, right? Let's focus this group as a team, decide what those things are, and then we'll kind of build goals and deliverables to meet those goals so that we can map to the deliveries of the beta of ISCP and also the whole mainnet launch when that comes on. Okay, I've been doing a lot of talking. I would like to hear some input from the team to see if you agree with that strategy or if you want to redirect.
Yeah, can I add a little bit to that? Because
please,
I'm an inexperienced developer and I'm here to learn really. So I think I'm not the only one in here that has not really any professional experience in programming, but is keen to learn something. So could we also divide the group a little bit in people that have actual experience with creating dApps or any smart contract, and have people that want to learn, like sort of like a peer program where you can just hook up with somebody that's working on a dApp or has an idea what has to be built, and that you can like learn together, or peer somebody up with an experienced developer or something like that.
That's a pretty cool idea, actually. I like that idea.
I've got an idea on that, so I was going to say something, but I think what I'm going to do is post a couple of questions in the experience channel. You know, have you had already experience programming smart contracts? Are you interested in testing, beta testing, ISCP? And if you click below that on the icon, then we can see all the people that are interested in skills and maybe some stuff like that. So I already have two questions. The one, you know, how do you have experience programming, you know, smart contracts and other platforms? And are you interested in beta testing? And I'll kind of monitor that, and they'll appear in the experience channel after the discussion. I think that's a good way to kind of initially gather everyone together, and then we can maybe make those lists, form them up in a way.
We can start aligning people with, you know, where they feel comfortable. Another thing, I also know in volunteer groups, people get worried about saying, hey, I want to go, I have interest in doing some area, but I don't really know if I have enough skills to do it. So what do they end up doing? They end up just not putting their name out there, right? Because they go like, I probably don't have the skills, so they make the decision not to do it. I would encourage you to not do that. I would encourage you to just put your name out there. I propose that there's no judgment on anybody in this group, right? We're all volunteers. We're all trying to expand our horizons. We're all trying to make IOTA and ISCP, you know, being adopted, right? So go ahead and put it out there. If you find out that you're not well suited to it, or if it doesn't, or it doesn't agree with you after a little while, that's fine. But there's nobody here who's going to say, look, no, man, you can't do this. We're going to say, you might hear some redirection. Say, look, you know, this area you're focusing on is fairly technical, and you're kind of, you need to actually kind of focus on a different area, or you need to kind of like learn a little bit more about Go or something, right? Something like that. That's acceptable. And should be expected comments from the team, but there's no judgment, right? I just don't want anybody to feel like they're being judged, because community doesn't live on judgment. It lives on everybody being a team. So I hope that makes sense. Talking about the idea of pairing people up, I think is a wonderful idea. And that also makes me think about, Philo had mentioned earlier to me that, you know, people have been asking, hey, where can I start learning and training, even if I'm a beginner, on smart contracts for ISCP. And he wanted me to make it clear to everybody that go to the wiki. There's a beginner's guide there. And the wiki, our wiki has a place where you can start learning how to use it. And then what I would say is that a lot of beginners will see that and get involved with it, and then they'll hit the roadblock. They'll actually, hit a wall. So feel free to come back to this group as a beginner and saying, look, I hit a wall. And we'll try to pair you up with somebody in our group that is willing to actually, talk you through some of it. Maybe, get you past that hurdle. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah, totally does.
That's a great idea.
Okay, cool. All right.
That's actually one of the reasons I decided to join this group. I've been doing my fair share of mentoring in the past, and I want everybody to know that I'm very approachable, right? Just because there's a big IF behind my name doesn't mean shit. If I'm online, you can ping me, you can ask me questions, or you can put them in the smart contract channel, and I will try to answer if I notice them, or if you ping me, I'm usually immediately available. And I've had several people that have already put out some stuff there that I've had quite some offline discussions with to help them forward in what they were writing or what they were building or explaining stuff. I don't mind doing that because every time I do that, I get value back. So for me, it's added value every single time.
Wonderful.
So don't be afraid to approach me.
From this, I had a suggestion regarding the documentation, especially since we've been working quite a bit on several IOTA-related projects. And one of the very, very major hurdles that we have had as a team working on IOTA-related projects is the documentation or the lack thereof. The documentation can be underwhelming at times, shall I say. And that is a really big roadblock that I've seen here. There have been a lot of points where I was unable to find it. The solution was there, it existed, but it was the documentation that let that specific protocol or IOTA project down at that. So I just have the suggestion that it would be in best interest of ISCP that we have very good documentation from the get-go, especially some good quick start guides, because after that someone can dive deeper. But it is absolutely essential that we have some good quick start guides.
Valuable comments, and I totally agree 100%. Thank you for that.
So I think there is a gathering of documents there, a migration of all the documentation to get over on the IOTA wiki, and I think that there's some there, but to your point, exactly. So, and the good news is that the wiki is actually something that I believe is editable and modifiable by the community, or at least a subset of that. So that's something where if you participate, you can certainly make it better. And I think that's, something that even people that non-technical people can participate into, because it's essentially a whole wiki there. So there'll be more details to follow on that. So I'll look into that along with Greg and see if we can make sure that that's part of our area, so that we evolve that into a more robust documentation.
Yeah, I think the wiki actually is pulling all the different markdown files from various repositories. So if anyone wants to edit them, it's pretty straightforward actually, and they can contribute very easily, just editing those markdowns and creating a pull request against a relevant repository. It's pretty cool actual initiative what has been done with the wiki by combining everything together in one place.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a few members here I see that have been instrumental in making that. So kudos to those guys. I think Dr. Muan, Philo, and I forget, there's a couple others that have worked very hard to put that out there, and it's a great site. And I think in the very, the better it becomes, the more work we actually participate in getting stuff out there.
So again, this is coming back to what assets do we have as part of our team, and then if we don't have them, we got to go get them. So I'm sorry, who was that? That was I'm looking at a bunch of screens. Who was that? Who was talking about documentation?
I was Meryl.
Meryl. Okay, Meryl. So just because you've been kind enough to volunteer your voice here, I would say that I'll use you as a reference. If we find people that are good in writing documentation, and especially quick start guides, sounds like you have a penchant for it or a mind for it, right? So maybe we could align you with helping us make sure that we have best-in-class start guides. That would be my idea. I'm not picking, I'm just using it as a reference that that may not be something you want to do, but these are the types of things this group can do to deliver and really help the IF and help all of us, right? So that would be kind of the approach.
Yeah, for sure.
So identifying those assets, applying these to these great ideas, and then moving forward. Another thing, hey, Dave, I've just sent you something as a DM, and could you put that up instead of this agenda? Because
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So what I'm going to do, guys, is there's another thing that I forgot. I talked about discussing ideas with the groups. So a couple of the things that did we lose everything, or you guys still hear me?
I gotta take it down in order to
yeah, I just want to make sure. Cool. So I think it's also pretty cool when you look in our Smart Contracts channel. Sometimes there's some really brilliant posts, and I just want to blast them out to everybody because I go, "Did you see this? Did you see this? It's so cool." So there've been a couple of those, and there also were some there was a nice Medium article that was published that was very thoughtful by Lucas, right? So these are things like when somebody publishes something like Lucas does at this, I think it would be great for us to just talk about that. Talk about, Lucas talked about some in-depth subjects about L1 versus L2, and a whole bunch of other stuff, gaps, potential gaps, and Eric had offered some explanations, and some good dialogue goes there, right? But I think these are great learning points for the group, and also sometimes it's just a lot easier when we talk about them as a group. So I think that maybe we'll do that in this group, and so that would mean that if people in this group have ideas for the next meeting for topics just to talk about, when we get to the discussion session or part of this meeting, I think that's a great way to learn, share, and teach. So I'm not going to talk about Lucas's thing right now, but what I am, Be Kind basically sent me an email today, a DM, and he said, "Hey, can you help me clarify some questions?" And since I've got the brain trust here, I've got Eric here, I thought we would put it up on screen and see if we could actually have Eric talk to these. Not to put you on the spot, Eric, but I am putting you on the spot.
No problem.
to talk about this. And
I meant what I said, right? Whatever it is, right? If I can answer it or if I can help with it, just do it. And don't be afraid. I never get slighted or something like that.
Okay. All right. So really, this is what I can read it to everybody, but I think you guys can read it yourself. So Be Kind was saying, "Hey, I want to get my mind around this." So maybe Eric, you can kind of just discuss
where did you put up something? Because I'm missing something.
Did your streaming session end? Did you click on streaming?
Dave is streaming the screen right now.
Yeah, I just have streaming there. So
let's see here, share screen. Because this is the first time I'm participating in this group.
No worries.
It should say clarifying questions related to ISCP scalability. Should be the title on it.
Do I have to leave and reconnect or something?
Do you see Dave's name at the very top? Probably on the top. Do you see Dave's name Dave.
Yeah, it should say live and say stream.
Watch stream.
Oh, there
Yeah,
it is.
watch stream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that brings a whole new dimension to things.
Yeah, before it was
Believe
just
me,
the agenda, so that was not more guiding. This
Yeah.
I think is going to be.
Yeah. Yeah, Discord is not the most intuitive in a lot of the different ways to me. So
Sometimes, yes.
About the block size, the way I understand it, our block size is related to the amount of transactions that will fit into an IOTA transaction. And therefore, there is a limit there. But the contracts themselves have no idea about that. It's just an underlying thing of the chain. And contracts, they don't care about, I mean, let's see, no, I think high-end hardware, the ISCP is built so that it can run on reasonably low-end hardware. You don't need high-end hardware. Only if you're doing really crazy processing, you will need high-end hardware. The block size is of no consequence there because, like I said, we're limited to the size of the number of transactions that will fit into a transaction message. And the committee will select from the, let's say, the backlog, which is a bad name because it's different from the usual backlog that you know from blockchain. But it will deterministically select a bunch of requests that are still outstanding to process, and it knows in advance how many of those will fit in the block so that it can process them as a batch, and only a single state update is needed for that. Does that answer that question?
Brian, are you still with us?
Yeah, I'm still here. I have a few more minutes.
Okay, cool.
So the total ordering aspect of this, we don't really have ordering based on timestamp or anything. We do try to keep the order of arrival, but since different nodes see things at different times, we need to come to consensus on that, right? Mm-hmm. And so even though we try to keep it in order of arrival, if it gets really busy, sometimes messages can go in first or later.
Misordered.
And,
yeah.
So it's not totally ordered, but it's mostly ordered, I would say.
And then over time, right, it becomes more. There's more finality to that decision, right?
No, once
Okay.
the validators have chosen the batch to process, the order in that batch is very well defined.
Okay, understood.
It's all deterministic at that level.
Okay, gotcha.
Right, and then it's part of the chain. So the order in the chain is once the ordering is defined, is final immediately. So the state update comes out, and you cannot change that order anymore. Nothing can get in between or before.
Okay,
something like that.
So Eric, if a block has a batch of transactions and the block size is defined by the number of transactions that will fit in a layer 1 transaction, how many, let's say this block contains the movement of tokens to a lot of different addresses.
Yep.
How many layer 1 transactions will that block consume?
I cannot tell you. It's actually one of my own private concerns. Because currently our state update moves the entire UTXO to a new UTXO. And that means that we're literally moving all the tokens to a new TXO, all the tokens that are in the smart contract, all the IOTA level 1 tokens, right? So whether they're colored or not. And that can be quite a lot. So I am wondering how they deal with that. I haven't investigated that personally. I have mentioned it to Evaldas, so he is looking into it. There's also still we're very much in discussion with the people from Chrysalis and Go Shimmer to figure out a nice common solution that includes what we need from the level 1. And so it's not completely finalized yet. So I cannot really tell you more than that. I know last week there was or maybe even this week. No, wait a minute. Last week or so, there was a meeting of a number of key people from the different disciplines to come up with ideas. This week, I believe there is a research summit going on. Next week, there will be a specific smart contract team meeting. So we're going to go in depth in a lot of that stuff, and I will have some really long nights because I will be dialing in. I was supposed to be there. I was supposed to be there, but turns out that my permanent residency card was expired, and I cannot get back into Canada with an expired card. And so it's been under renewal since May. It's crazy, the processing times at Canada Immigration is stupid.
But Eric, one thing, I think there's this alias output, right, in layer 1?
Can you speak up a little bit? You're faint.
Okay. Let me see if I can change that. Do you hear me, or?
That's a little bit better.
I hear you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that's better.
Okay. Maybe now it's better, right?
Oh, way better.
Yeah, there we go.
Way better.
Okay. Yeah, sorry. But on layer 1, there's this alias output type, right? Which has the state transition. But you can also have UTXOs that are controlled by the alias output type, but not all the funds need to reside in that specific alias output type. I think that's the solution for that problem. So you don't need to move all the tokens with every state update.
Yeah, I agree that there will be solutions for that, but I was just highlighting that I don't know the exact number of requests that we can process in a single block. It could be that it turns out that we are simply looking at the backlog, take the entire stuff that's there, and process that in one go, and that is the block size. Very variable. It's just we're trying to process things as fast as possible, and that means that we want to limit the amount of state updates, and therefore we're batching requests.
Yeah, but there is a limit. Actually, in Chrysalis Part 2, we introduced the limit of 128 inputs and outputs per transaction. And this is not only, this is the limit for the inputs or outputs. I mean, we could increase that, but it makes no sense because also the proof of work gets way harder.
Yeah.
So basically, you're also limited by the proof of work.
Yeah, agreed. So it may be that ISCP will have to somehow divvy up that over several transactions or whatnot, but I'm sure we'll come up with a nice solution for that. But right now, I cannot tell you because I don't know it myself, and we're still investigating those kind of things. Because for us, it was most important that the basic ideas are all working. So when we're testing, we're usually testing with small amounts, and we're only now starting to test with really ridiculous amounts and bumping into problems, of course. So there are bugs being fixed last minute before we actually release the ISCP.
Cool.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification.
Okay, great.
Then
Thanks, Brian, for that. Appreciate it. So,
question number 2, is the state change published to detangle the hash of the block? So being a large block containing management hacks that remain require one. Yes, that's what I just said. We're batching the state changes and essentially then creating a new state inside the validators, and that's their database, and the hash of that data will be published to the Tangle. But like Muxer said, we still have to deal with transactions, and that is going to be the limiting factor probably. So that we can fit it all in the state update transaction, because they all need to be atomic in that way. If number 2 record seems that token transactions remain on contract but not required to. Yeah, that's correct. ISCP, once tokens are transferred to the contract, they become part of the accounting system of the chain. And so you can move tokens without needing a transaction. And that is very powerful indeed. That is something that that I think is going to be used a lot in the future, because it means that that you can do ridiculously fast transactions, and the only thing you need to wait for is the single state update from the chain, and you know your transaction has been logged and is verified and cannot be undone. And then there is a possibility for everybody to simply retrieve their tokens from their account address based on their own keys. So that's it's quite a flexible system, but the only thing is that the tokens are at that moment governed by the chain and under control of the chain. So that's the only drawback of the system, but it gives you an enormous speed increase, as long as you have a good working committee. Yeah, there shouldn't be any problem with that. It's a matter of getting the right reputation and staking mechanisms behind it to make sure that nobody starts running off with tokens, but that depends on what you select. If it's a consortium of banks, you don't have to be afraid of that, because they're already doing that shit, right? They could run off with your money anyway. Then number 4, if number 3 is correct, then when tokens need to leave that contract, for token movement of the contract or a bulk transaction to send tokens to others.
Yeah, basically that's already possible with Chrysalis Part 2.
Yeah, so here again, it depends on the batching, right? The batching of the request determines the tokens that need to be transferred ultimately. So while we're batching, we're literally keeping track of what needs to go where, and then we create a transaction that in one transaction does all the token movements and the state update. So it's a single transaction.
Correctly, and this
scalability, yeah.
This is how Chrysalis Part 2 also works. You can create a single transaction and consume 128 different inputs, and you can also create 128 different outputs in the same transaction. So basically, we already have this functionality. It only needs to be extended to have like the colored tokens or layer 1 digital assets.
Okay.
So I delivered right, getting you an answer. So that was easier. I didn't have to type it out. So
That's great.
yeah.
We're trying to actually have to roll, but thank you very much.
No worries, man. Thank you for making the time.
Useful for everybody.
Yeah. All right. Okay, so we're at the hour mark, everybody. I think this is. I just want to open it up to everybody for anybody who wants to speak, talk, make recommendations. And anybody have any comments about the program, what you would like to get out of it, how we should reshape it? If you aren't comfortable with sharing that by talking about it out loud with the group, please DM gman214 and I'll work that in. We can discuss that at a later time. So,
just a couple of things to add. So first of all, somebody mentioned that they are very new to smart contracts as well as ISCP. I think that is the perfect sort of audience as well, because you'll sort of have a blank slate, and we'll also get to know what all things that we need to add from an educational content perspective or getting start guide perspective that will be beneficial for others who are getting started or who are moving from other platforms to IOTA Smart Contracts. And secondly, the testing part, I think it doesn't just involve testing what works right now, or if you can think of, say, other use cases from different other platforms. So for example, ERC 721 might work, but ERC 1155 might not work. So there can be different use cases which might have some issues. So feel free to play around with it as much as possible.
That's actually a really good comment, and also right, it can be quite aggravating when you try to work on something and you don't know that basic fact, right? And you're trying everything, and then you don't even know that there's issues there, right? So
exactly.
Obviously, if we can actually point those out issues to the group, any way we can engineer out friction for this group in the learning process, and even for the larger community at large, right? And basically new people coming to our platform, that's actually key, right? Bringing people into this group needs to be friction free. We should be able to have an easy on ramp for all of them. And so I view that as job number one for this group, right? I kind of started this whole thing with identifying tools that are already easy to use that exist on other platforms that actually make it easy to build smart contracts on other platforms, right? So I'm of the vision that we just kind of roll with that. Heck, I will love the idea of having a contest where we would just say, hey, look, let's build this dApp that exists on Ethereum. Just bring it over to our platform, copy the functionality and everything identically, get it working, and then get it working on ISCP. Don't reinvent. We've already got a reference model, right? It's like a mini MVP already established, right? And we just do that and just do it based upon ISCP. So that's kind of where I see us going. It'll get the juices flowing in this group, I can guarantee you, once we start getting that going. Okay,
that would be actually awesome.
Can I just add one thing, just following on from that? I think this kind of goes back to what Meryl was saying in regards to access to the protocols. It's really hard for community members to get involved when they're working with something that's never existed before, sort of thing, because the ISCP is just phenomenal and new, and it's just that getting started guide, that something that the IF can give to the community that can just give that stepping stone into the protocols. As soon as that's there, then that's something that will just transform the whole ecosystem.
Yeah, that is exactly what I'm trying to drive to. Actually, and the comments on the guard guide.
Thinking that's exactly what we need. And I was thinking a level further, which is we're all going to start working and developing, or at least the developers of us. If we could have a way to post, or some place where we can post our own work that people can look at, because for me, the best way to learn is to actually look at other people, see what different implementations are, how they've used it. And Eric's done a great job of putting some examples in the documentation that's out there, but I think actual working stuff that we can, bring down, work with it, see it work, debug it, and then learn from that is going to advance our knowledge incredibly. So whether it's just posting links of our GitHub projects in the channel, or maybe something a little more involved, I'll leave it up to the community to figure out, what would be good. But certainly if you have ideas, ping me, and I'll do whatever I can to help make that happen.
Love that idea.
Yeah, I definitely love that idea.
So we've got a lot of ideas. I'll work with Dave and I, so we can actually kind of try to organize how we can do this in a way. One of the crazy things is when you try to do this and everybody says, hey, I've got this chunk of code, I want to show, have people collaborate on it or see what I've done, learn from it, all that kind of thing, is when you just say, hey, it's on GitHub, right? It's kind of like what you're doing is saying, hey, there's a book somewhere in the library. What we want to do is we want to use this group to maybe when people do have some of that stuff, I would ask that you volunteer to just bring it up in the next follow-on meeting, or even ping fellow members to say, hey, look, I just put this out there, or put it in our channel, right? And I just put this out there, and it's ready to collaborate, and it lives here. And then we'll just, instead of it just going to one person, we'll just try to make sure everybody gets notified. I'll try not to hit you with over notification, and then I can't babysit this thing the whole time. I got a whole bunch of other stuff going on, but these are the kinds of things that actually makes community happen. So, any other comments?
I just want to mention one other thing. I've posted the questions in the experience channel. So if you have experience with other smart contracts, please let us know clicking on the icon underneath the question. If you're interested in helping beta test, and if you're interested in improving the documentation, please go over there. Or if you know someone that is, point them in the right direction, so we kind of get a good list of people that we should reach out to.
Okay.
So if
to summarize, go ahead.
More than a few people actually click on the icon, you won't be able to see everybody's name.
Let's see. I think you can right-click and say.
You just right-click and view reactions. Yeah, it gives you a full list of everybody.
Everybody. I think we can do that. If not, then I'll work with Antonio to provide something a little more professional. Sorry about that.
It may be worth
I tried to do
well.
a poll, but the poll had some problems, so I just defaulted to that.
Okay.
One thing I would like to mention that I was playing with as an idea is once we have the release out of the door and I have a bit more air, I would like to do some online work with screenshots and everything with my development environment, and show how to build a smart contract program while talking through it and showcasing all the aspects of the new way of doing things, and that way help developers get started faster, or give them ideas of what is possible.
That's awesome. When will that be?
Yeah, that would be that would be ideal.
I tried.
That would be after release, because like I said, I'm pretty swamped. I'm actually one of the bottlenecks for the release at the moment. So I'm trying to get that out, and the release won't be until after next week's smart contract meeting anyway, because we didn't want to get swamped with questions while we are working on solutions.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit of a delay, but that delay allows me to catch up with everything and make sure everything is ready for the release. And I did a presentation like that, a basic one, but I would like to go more in depth with all kinds of aspects. So make it sessions about every single aspect instead of an overview session like I did last week for the foundation. There is a recording of that, and I think they want to put it online at some point. So that one should show up anyway. But I would really like to go through all the aspects and give developers something that they can watch and see in action how it works or work alongside.
That would be wonderful.
And especially make that also a bit interactive, so that if there could be developers there, because I can simply put that online on YouTube in my own time, but it would be much more interesting to do that, for example, here in a shared environment where people can ask me the questions they have the moment they pop up, and we can immediately deal with those, and then put the recording up.
That I can't think of a better thing, to be frank. But when you're ready, I think Dave and I will make sure that we take care of all the recording stuff for you. So you just concentrate on teaching. Right? So we'll put it on YouTube and all that. So we'll try to do as much heavy lifting as we can for you, because you got a lot on your plate, and that's definitely something that the X team can do for you.
Cool.
Just a little thing, Eric, just as a reminder, I know you're slammed. We do have you scheduled for showing up the schema this Thursday at 6 p.m. in the U.S. Americas group.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So this is my advertising for the U.S. Americas group. We got Eric Hopp showing off the schema tool that he's built, and it will be recorded, but it is going to be this Thursday at 6 p.m. in the regional voice channel, regional voice channel, this Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific.
Mm-hmm.
So it will be recorded for everybody around the globe.
And we should be live streaming that as well, because we anticipate there's going to be a lot of people.
Yeah.
So
we are really excited about that. But this is also, perfect for this group, right?
Yep.
So it'll be recorded, and that'll be another thing that we can bring forward for you guys. Okay, so I think I'm going to wrap this whole thing up and just say, all right, thank you for coming. Thank you for your participation. Bring a friend to the next one. Please reach out and identify what you would like to be involved in. Don't be shy. Basically, kind of let me understand what your experience is in, so that we can actually start trying to figure out how we can pair you up with projects, the goals that we have as a group, the learnings that people have talked about that we want to do that. So maybe we can do some mentoring type teaching from, apprentice to more experienced pairings, and, focus on delivering documentation that is really well defined, with emphasis on no missing gaps and quick start guide. So I think we have a good foundation on what we want to do. Thank you, Eric, for this has made life wonderful for me, having you here to help cover me. So I appreciate that very much. And Dave, thanks for helping me on this. I'm sure I missed some things that we talked about today, but again, just DM me, and we'll work on getting better and better at these meetings every single time, and the presentation mode and so forth. But I thank you for attending. Please reach out, and I think I'm going to call this over. You guys good?
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right. Okay, you guys. All right.
Thank you, Greg.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good day. All right, we'll talk to you. Bye-bye.